So great to have you all here today. My name is Shane Thomas, and I'm with the editorial team at Point Franchise, and we're excited to have or launch our inaugural webinar series in the Franchise Forward series today, with two special guests, Matteo Frugeri from Seeds Consulting and Imran Mahmood, the managing director at Rooster Shack. Before we jump into the conversation, I'd actually like to pass the baton over to both Matteo and Imran to quickly introduce themselves. So Matteo, if you wouldn't mind starting.
Yes, I'm the director of Seeds Consulting, and we specialized in franchising for restaurant companies in the UK and internationally.
And go ahead, Imran.
I'm Imran Mahmood. I'm the managing director of Rooster Shack. We're a fast food brand specializing in a range of items, including burgers, wings, grilled chicken, and milkshakes. And we've been operating for almost 5 years.
Awesome. Thank you. So before we jump into the conversation, and as you can tell, the focus of today's conversation is going to be in the food and beverage industry and quick service restaurants. But we wanted to set a little context before getting into the conversation to really discuss why now's the right time to become a franchisee. Hopefully at this point, you can all see the presentation that we've loaded up. If not, please do let us know and we will try to troubleshoot. So just to get started, what we've known for many years is that franchising is a resilient industry. It has been incredibly resilient even during some of the most difficult financial times, including the last recession, and likely what we will see once we get data in from the pandemic-related recession. We'll see that it has continued to grow even amidst a number of headwinds. In fact, a lot of the conversations that we've had with many of our franchisor and franchisee partners, we've heard just how much they've actually succeeded in spite of the fact that this has been a really difficult year for many people. Now, what has allowed the franchising industry to succeed and grow even in such challenging times? One of the biggest benefits of the franchising model is its overall adaptability. It has the opportunity to change on the fly. And what we saw and what we've heard again and again over the course of the past year is that many of the franchise partners we work with have not just let the pandemic stop them in their tracks, but they have actually used the benefits of the model to create a more adaptable and nimble business that could adjust to some of the challenges that we've all been facing. Additionally, what makes franchising so unique is that there are great relationships that exist between franchisees and their franchisors, and also with their other franchisees. And this creates a community spirit and a network of support that allows the entire franchise business to work together to succeed. And as a result of that, we've seen a tremendous amount of new innovations and new opportunities emerge in the franchising industry in this past year to combat some of the negative headwinds and challenges of the pandemic, which we know many of you have faced over the course of this year. But this is just not something that we say all the time. This is actually something that franchisors have said for a long time now, that franchising is a proven concept that helps many businesses and many entrepreneurs succeed and grow over time. So, to set some context around why we're here today and why franchising is such an opportunity and unique opportunity for all of you, is because we are finally on the road to recovery, coming out of these pandemic times. Everyone's eager to get the vaccine, open up our economies, and get life to something that looks back to normal. And I think all of us are in agreement that we're ready for that. But another trend that's important to note is that during this time, many people across the entire UK have been saving up and now have disposable income ready to spend once the world opens up. So for many franchise businesses, those that we have on Point Franchise and also the businesses that we're going to talk about today, are really primed for success as the economy opens up again and people go out and spend their money. Now, specifically, as we look to the food and beverage industry and quick service restaurants in particular, what we've seen over the course of the pandemic is a shift towards online food orders and delivery. And this is probably not a surprise because as we've faced many restrictions and lockdowns, we haven't had the opportunity to go into restaurants. In fact, I can't remember the last time I was actually in one. But this has created a unique shift on a number of fronts. One very interesting one is that many people are staying more local than ever before. With little movement happening and little things to do out in the world around us, people have really been focusing their attention on the local businesses around them. And this has really played out significantly in the world of food and beverage and quick service restaurants. So what we've seen as a result is that quick service restaurants are capturing a huge surge in demand. And it's gaining new momentum that will not just carry on through whatever is left of this pandemic, but it's setting a new foundation for restaurants to succeed in the years ahead. So with that, and hopefully that set some context for the broader discussion that we're all going to have today. With that, I'd like to ask Matteo, you the first question. As a franchise consultant, specifically focused on the food and beverage sector, can you tell us a little bit about some of the trends or the top trends you've seen over the past year? And in the case of franchising, where people have been making their biggest investments?
Yes, thank you, Shane. I mean, what I would say is that the local takeaway is back on fashion. Probably never went out of fashion. But certainly, the localism trend is the main trend right now. If you look at, say, for example, a place like Bicester. If you live in Bicester, you commute to Birmingham, Oxford, or London. So if you take a picture of the footfall last August, when people were relatively free to move, and you look at Bicester, you see that it's a lot busier than London and Birmingham. So people are dwelling locally. So the local hubs obviously have strengthened, and Bicester Village, the makeup of their footfall usually quite international. Now there's a lot of locals that they go to Bicester Village. Is important, but then in secondary high streets where the neighborhood stores are, that's even busier, and so having a model that can serve that consumer is quite important, and that has determined the rise of delivery focused businesses. So if you look at Deliveroo, I think they're going to do an IPO soon, and they hope to achieve 10 billion valuation. DoorDash in the US, this was an IPO in December. They were valued at 60 billion. So businesses that have a delivery model as a core business, or they just purely focus on delivery, that's where we're seeing a lot of the smart money going. So we're talking about virtual brands that can operate out of dark kitchens, or virtual brands that can be operated out of an existing restaurant. They've been very popular. I would say also the businesses that have, they're not just playing with delivery. It's not just ancillary to their business model, but it's their core business model. That's where a lot of the money is gone, because there's clearly growth in that area. It's almost like intuitive. It's down to our everyday experience, isn't it?
And I think before we move on from that, because I think the delivery has definitely seen a massive surge in pandemic times. And I think, Imran, one of the things that is interesting about your business is that you've created a business that does not necessarily have to rely on some of those third-party delivery apps. So can you talk just a little bit about that and how you, similar to what Matteo has just been talking about, where the investments have been placed in delivery, how your business has actually been able to really capitalize on this shift to online food ordering? And
so I think kind of first lockdown, it was quite surreal, really, because a lot of things changed. And kind of pre-lockdown, a lot of our operation as a business was collection, as well as delivery and takeaway, but the biggest part was collection. You know, when the first lockdown came, suddenly we saw a shift from a lot of our customers staying at home and isolating or not going out, obviously due to restrictions. And that dynamic changed to a delivery platform. But, you know, we were in a position to kind of do that because we were always conducting deliveries within our business, but we had to adapt to it further by really promoting it a lot more. And, you know, when you look at these third-party platforms, they've been very good and their marketing strategy is amazing. We've been fortunate that we've got our own app. We've had it for the last 3.5 years. And 90% of the orders have been coming through our app. And we've been promoting that a lot more during lockdown, just via social media, Instagram and Facebook, which has really helped us serve the community. And, you know, we saw a massive increase in deliveries, you know, week on week. And right now, you know, the majority of our orders are going to home delivery. So we saw that shift very, very quickly, but we've been able to adapt to that by really just doing what we do best.
Sorry, the little reverb there. That's really great to hear. And I think, you know, as a follow-up question to that, what I know a lot of people on this webinar would like to hear is a little bit more from you, Imran, about how that plays into your overall vision for Rooster Shack and what your journey has been, you know, why you started it in the first place, and you know, how you got into this really unique and dynamic category.
Sure. So my background is actually pharmaceuticals. So I graduated in 2009 in pharmaceuticals. Enjoyed my career over a number of years. But during my travels, especially to the Middle East and other places, I saw some really good dynamic brands coming along. Food was always a passion for me from a very young age. Cooked with mum quite a lot, and my dad as well. So I really had a vision to really open a brand at some point when it was right, which would be quite unique, bringing lots of different flavors under one roof, really. And it all started when I go out quite a lot with friends. We eat some great food, and we always found that, you know, different cuisines, we had to visit different places, and that was over one night. So really, that's where my passion started, and it took a few years to try and bring that to the table in terms of the menu, the branding, the look, the feel. And then I kind of bit the bullet in 2016, but it all started in 2013 in terms of the research. Quit my corporate job, you know, and did followed what I loved, really. And, you know, thankfully 5 years on, we're stronger than ever. We've managed to open the first franchise, which is my best friend who's running that store. And really, you know, we've managed to really.
You've accidentally put yourself on mute.
Sorry, guys. And we've managed to really master our trade, really, and become very, very popular.
You did it again.
Sorry, guys. There you go. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
So over the last kind of, you know, few years, we've managed to really master our skill and become better at what we do, and build a brand. And that was all due to our customer feedback and our popularity locally.
That's incredible, and especially, you know, you've in such a short amount of time being able to grow a business that is booming. You know, one question that I'd just like to ask to get your perspective, and it also builds on what Matteo was talking about and some of the trends he's seen across the F&B category in general. For your business specifically, over the past year and over the COVID pandemic, are there any interesting trends that you have noticed that are starting to shape not only how you've responded to the pandemic times, but how you will probably continue to shape your business in the years ahead?
Sure. Home delivery. That's really been that's going to be the future, I think, a lot more. We've managed in the last year to kind of deliver food to our customers' door more than ever before. You know, probably, you know, 65, 70% of our orders per week are home delivery now. And I think moving forward, we found contactless delivery has become a lot bigger. Customers are a lot more cautious about what they order and how they receive their order. So we've been able to adapt to that by offering lots of different methods, like pay at the door, by car terminals, pay online. And I think what we're seeing, especially kind of in the last 6 months, is like I said, home delivery has just rocketed more than ever before. And I think that's really going to be the future of fast food is customers sitting at home and ordering food via an app, via a mobile, or via the telephone. And I think not just my business, but a lot of other businesses need to adapt to that very quickly, because it's what customers require and what they want.
Awesome. And I think that is a good segue into a question that I have for you, Matteo, in terms of, we've got a number of potential franchisees that are joining us on this call today. And oftentimes they don't necessarily know the ins and outs, especially if they don't work in the F&B category, the ins and outs of the food and beverage space. So can you tell us a little bit about what your role is as a franchise consultant, and more specifically about what makes Seats Consulting so unique within the F&B space?
Yeah, but I guess we specialize obviously in restaurant franchising, so we're sort of we see ourselves as part of the franchising sector, but also the restaurant sector. And I mean, in the way we do things, we sort of try and bridge the gap between the two. Traditionally, the franchise sector has been a bit behind in terms of trends and sophistication compared to the wider restaurant market. So we're bringing on the market some concepts that need to sort of quite selective. So they need to be in a certain space, fit certain consumer criteria. We look at it from the real estate perspective, the type of locations they want to be in. Are they easy to come across? What kind of impact rents have on their P&L? So when we come on the market with a franchise offer, we make sure that we can build a strong case, that it's a good business model for the time when it comes on the market. And when we set sort of the system, we need to make sure that it's competitive with regards to EBITDA percentages or return on investment. So we're quite selective, and obviously we're restaurant consultants as well, so we can put together the package. We're not just passively accepting a business model, but we can help the franchisor in this case, look at tightening the concept before expanding it. So I guess it's more added value, and of course we can support operationally. We can support with lease acquisition, the franchisor and its franchisees. So it's a slightly different business model where we're not involved with all sectors, but we're quite specialized in what we do, and we go deeper in the level of support that we provide to brands.
So, a follow-up question there. What do you typically see as the biggest challenges that the businesses that you work with, what are the biggest challenges that they face within this food and beverage space?
In terms of challenges, I think the challenges are always two main ones: is around site selection and it's around partner selection. So it's really understanding what are those criteria, setting out the criteria for franchisees to come on board, and also be more professional about site selection, because a lot of franchisors that I've come across, they really still trust their instincts more than data. There's a lot of data available actually around locations. If you look for it, they can really give you the footprint of that location with regards to your demographic, etc. So that's part of the support that serious franchisors should consider for their franchisees. And then it becomes a more considered decision because it's based on data. But serious franchisors also push their franchisees to do their due diligence on the site, to spend time on the site at different times of the day, of the week, to look at trends. And then when you combine the two things, then you just it's never a guarantee of success, but you reduce your risk. Now, with properties now, because of they have sort of abolished the traditional barriers between retail and restaurant units. This has actually flooded the market with lots of potential restaurant units. So the prices in terms of rents has gone down, and in sort of residential, more secondary high streets, you're looking at 4-figure annual rents, which was unheard of. So if you start in a business as a franchisee, you have you started from a very good base, because you're taking a site that has a lower property cost. You can do a lot of the sales online. That's a good business model, and we've seen this with Rooster Shack in particular, where we have a franchisee trading, doing sales that in a weekly sales exceed his total annual rent liability, which is unheard of. So there's great opportunities, but I think it's a good moment to start a business from that point of view. But you need to have the right concept, the one that really can help you exploit these new trends, at best.
So I do have another question that around real estate that I want to tap into, but I want to pass the mic back over to Imran, because I think obviously when you were talking about how helping Rooster Shack with site selection and finding the right location to ensure that this franchisee could succeed in such a massive way, obviously that's incredibly important. But Imran, I'd love to get a little perspective from your end of this process in terms of really what you do and what your focus is in helping franchisees find the right location to help them succeed.
Sure. So I'm fully involved in the business and fully involved with my franchisee. I work 100 miles an hour. I want to make sure that everything is done right, and the success of any franchisee is my success as well. In terms of location, so we're very fortunate, because when I chose my location here in Woking, it was a secondary site. So it's outside of the town centre, but it's achieving high street sales. So over the last 4 years, we've done we've done amazing in terms of our sales, in terms of our reputation. So really, when I discussed Aldershot with my friend, we selected a site. So we saw high street sites, we saw non-high street sites, and again, we had a conversation that if my site, which is a secondary neighbourhood site, is doing really well, I really do think that we don't need to be essentially in a high street paying 5-6 figure rents. We can be very smart and choose a location which has a great transport link, which has a good community, some local businesses. And again, a lot of this advice was from Seeds Consulting, and we discussed this, and we chose the right location in Aldershot. And again, it's a very similar site to mine. It's a secondary site. It's not a prime location, but it's as Matthias said, it's achieving record sales. It's 1 week's sales is the yearly rent, and that's worked really well. So moving forward, site selection is very important. I'm fully involved in that, and for my part, it's about giving the best advice to any franchisee, and being very honest and saying, I think that this site will be suitable for these reasons. This has worked. All the shots worked, and hopefully, moving forward, we choose the right locations for the right franchisee, and they're able to exceed targets and be successful.
So, a question for both of you. Obviously, there is a lot of value, and in the theme of today's conversation, which is why it's such a good time to become a franchisee now. Do you see potentially in the near term? Yes, but how long do you think this value on real estate is going to last? Is there the potential for it to skyrocket once again once things start to get moving? What are your thoughts on
that? Shall I answer this one, Imran?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I mean, it's a bit of a, to be honest, Shane, it's a bit of a crystal ball question. Certainly, this is a correction in a trend. How long it will last, really difficult to gauge. It has to be done to regulation and legislation to a certain extent, and we have little insight into that. But what I would say is that this is actually changing the scenario quite considerably, and it's an interesting area, but I don't think anyone has the answer what's happening in the future. Well, another element that I would say is probably interesting for somebody listening now is that it's not just a softer real estate market, but it's a softer labor market as well. Mm-hmm. So we've seen a lot of there's going to be a projection where unfortunately unemployment is increasing over the next few months, and much of that unemployment has a lot of retail and hospitality skills, rightly or it's just a fact. So recruitment traditionally being quite an important part of any restaurant business. Well, that is becoming probably a bit easier in the future as well. So the availability of staff and the good quality, trained, skilled staff is increasing over the next few months. So there is certainly a window of opportunity. How wide that window is a bit of an unknown at the moment, but there's definitely opportunities at the moment.
So it's safe to say that right now there is. It's ripe for the taking. Someone who is interested in franchising, especially within the food and beverage sector, this is really an opportunity that we may not have again in terms of market softness and general pricing for many, many years.
Yes, and I think I'll give you an example. So I give you a couple of sort of pieces of information around delivery platforms, but there's a brand from the US coming just 2 days ago, announced that they were coming to the UK, and guess what? It's a traditional fast food brand. It's Wendy's from the US. Yeah. So they came here in the early 90s, and then they pulled out for various reasons. They're coming back now. Why now? Why are they coming back now? So obviously we've seen the last recession is the QSR brand, the quick service restaurants really expanded. So the McDonald's, the KFCs really expanded in 2009 during the last recession. So everyone, it's not just about traditional fast food, it's whoever is in that price range of QSR certainly want to see a benefit, because it's expected that a lot of people will trade down from casual dining, especially the mediocre casual dining that we had before, into fast casual and into quick service restaurants. So again, that's another insight into what is happening. It's a bit of a proxy of for what the investment is going at the moment.
And obviously that is a great example of the opportunity that is in front of many potential franchisees today interested in breaking into this category that is, again, as you've said in a number of different ways, primed for growth in both the near and long term. And before we shift the conversation ever so slightly, just wanted to see, Imran, did you have anything else that you wanted to add on that topic?
No, I think Mattio's really nailed it there. I think it's the real time to invest now. I know that. I'm first-hand experience of that. I think we've also, just to add on to that, we've seen an influx of applications come in more than ever since probably just after the first lockdown, and that's because, like you mentioned in the slide, there's more people with money. They want to be their own boss. You go past most takeaways, they're very busy. A lot of customers see that as an opportunity to invest. And there's no better time. I'm sure of it. There's no better time.
So that's a perfect segue. One of the things that a lot of potential franchisees are potentially not, I won't want to say fearful, but unsure of the current circumstances in COVID, and don't necessarily want to or feel confident enough to go in full force with this kind of investment. So one of the things I'd like to ask you, Imran, is to tell us a little bit about what some of those concerns are, what some of those questions are that you hear when you're meeting a potential franchisee for the first time. And then as a follow-up to that, let's talk about the questions that they really should be asking.
Sure. So I think a lot of the questions since COVID is, we really want to franchise. Are you guys busy? Has anything changed? And the answer to that is, yeah, sales have increased. And I tell customers, a lot of the quick service kind of sector is doing very well at the moment. There are a lot of reservations with potential franchisees because of the risk factor of how the year's gone and how unpredicted it's been across the world. But essentially, the questions that I feel that franchisees should be asking that they're not asking is, things such as, where do you see your brand in 5 years? What is your plan? And I think the answer to those questions would really give a lot of the franchisees some assurance that we are moving forward and we are growing. And as a franchisor, working with Seeds Consulting and other consultants, we have a plan in place which will ensure to the best of our ability that the franchisee can succeed as well as us. So I think, a lot of customers ask questions such as how busy you are, how are you guys doing? I think what they want to be asking is, where do you guys see yourself in 5 years? What are your next locations? How do you help your franchisees? What do you do? The kind of training you give, so they can be assured that they're going to get the full support.
You just opened yourself up for me asking you a lot more questions right now. And the first question is, I'm just going to take the role of a potential franchisee. Where do you see your business in 5 years?
Sure. So I think firstly, I'm very ambitious. I've got a passion for this brand and this food. So I think that's probably the first thing that motivates me in moving forward every day. In 5 years' time, I know the fast food sector fairly well. I know my competitors. I know the different brands that are out there. I think for me, it's opening locations and stores in the right locations and having the right partners. So whether that means 20 stores or 50 stores over the next 5 years, for me, it's about having the right partners in the right locations. Because with those partners, you're going to grow and succeed. There are many brands out there that open 20 or 30 stores a year, and they don't essentially last past the first 12 months. And that's, I think, because they don't choose the right partners to partner with. They look at the brand itself and they just want to get a number out there. But for us, if I get to 5 stores a year over the next 5 years with the right partners, I think that's probably where I see myself, and I'll be very happy in that position.
So, and not to put you on the spot, you're making it very easy for me to put you on the spot, which is a good thing. When you're talking about partners or looking for the right partners, what does that entail? For some of these potential franchisees who are considering investing in a business like yours, what do you consider to be a top-notch partner?
I think someone that's willing to really understand the level of work that this kind of brand business takes. You're an owner operator, essentially. You're going to be the person that's going to be the front of house. You're going to be managing a team. You're going to be probably for the first year and a half the face that most customers recognize and see. And I think, it's really knowing that, the reward is there, but you really need to, be in the business, understand your customers, manage your team well. And that's what's going to make a successful partner. And when I see these guys and I meet all these guys, essentially that's the first thing I mention. I always ask them about their background, where have they worked, what have they done, because that really gives me an idea of where I see them within the business. And for me, it's really not about the investment or the money. It's about the partner. And if they're willing to really understand that this business is, it takes a lot of work. You will be, doing a fair amount of hours to ensure that your customers know you and you get to know the product. And if they're willing to do that and they've got the willpower and the tenacity to do that, I think they're going to do very, very well. And I think for me, it's passing that message on and seeing that franchisee, knowing where they're going to be. If they've got that willpower and they can do that, that's what makes a successful franchisee, in my opinion.
Awesome. So I will ask you, Matteo, a similar question, because from your end of the spectrum, what are you seeing in this space as the people, the businesses, the franchisors who are poised for success? What is it from your perspective that you might be able to add on to what Imran's just said?
Yeah, I think it's if it's an owner-operator model. So in the case of Rooster Shack, it is. The business has been set up to be fairly easy in the way that you don't need to have extensive back of house or front of house restaurant experience to run it. In fact, actually, Imran is not from the sector. His franchisees are not restaurant people. So it's all down to the attitude, the hard work, and obviously having people skills helps us in our sector. But there's no, it's not a hard skill. It's not a degree that you need to have. On the other side of the spectrum, if it's not an owner-operator model, I mean, we deal with businesses that whose franchisees are more corporates or are small and medium companies running maybe multiple brands or regional franchises. And the success in that case is obviously they have the experience and they have the infrastructure. So what is the success factor is more the focus, really. So within a range of brands, what is this are they investing, and the quality of the sort of middle management. So where there's an owner and then there's a brand manager that oversees that brand within that portfolio. So the choice of people running above store level is a critical factor. So it really depends. I mean, we're really looking at two extremes. We're in the middle. There certainly is a lot of boxes you need to tick. However, joining the franchise means that you have to tick less boxes than if you were to start your own business, because supply chain is probably going to be optimized already. You will have benefit from the number of property contacts, marketing. There will be a sort of marketing approach, a marketing plan in place. So a lot of these things that take a lot of time to set up and they take away some of that work. So you can concentrate really on executing. I don't think franchising is for creators. So for those who want their own concept, they will find franchising a bit tight. Franchising is for those that, of course, they can be creative, but the creativity is limited in a franchise system. It's for those that want to take an existing business and replicate its success by following the procedure. So the ability to learn the system and then apply it day in, day out, and make sure your staff and your team applies it day in, day out. That's a critical element of the success. So it's how good an operator is, and it means also being tight in terms of the costs. It means being consistent. It means selecting the right people. So it's not because you're joining a franchise success is granted. There's still quite a bit that is down to the individual operator, but there isn't as much as if you started your own business. Then I would really suggest that people who consider that already have extensive experience in the sector. Somebody who's new to the restaurant sector and is starting something new, it needs to buy expertise, and franchising is probably his best option. Somebody has a lot of experience, they can do their own thing, but it's really a tough, it's really a tall order.
So I think that's a good point, and something that we should probably hit on a little bit more. And either of you can answer this, but Matteo, you had just mentioned that a lot of the franchisees that are coming onto Rooster Shack don't necessarily have F&B experience. So it would be interesting, knowing that that's the case for this specific franchise, what would you advise to potential franchisees who are looking at opportunities like this as making a big career change? And what are the challenges potentially that you've seen similar people face, or Imran, in your own experience, what challenges have you faced that you are able to put into the fabric of your franchise to ensure that potential franchisees don't have to face the same challenges down the road? Either.
Should I answer a bit of that part of that? I think, so I think when my franchisee was very fortunate when he set up, because we minimized all the mistakes. All the mistakes that I made right at the beginning, he didn't make. So, it was a very, very smooth journey for him. Extremely smooth, in fact. He had the full support from me, my team, my guys that work here in terms of training. When I first started, I think it was more organization. I think I really didn't know how to organize things, because, suddenly you've gone from being employed to an employer of 10, 11 people. And then you're running a brand, and you've got, you're serving hundreds of customers a day. How do you organize your day? And that's down to things such as, operating the business on a daily basis, the cleaning schedule, how to manage your staff, how to have monthly meetings with your staff, how to motivate your team, how to do various promotions. And I think I learned that very, very quickly by throwing myself into the deep end. And again, part of that success was Seeds Consulting. When I contacted them and I said, this is my brand. They love the food. Can you help me? And what they managed to do over a very short period of time is to really just take the foundation of this business and structure it in a way where, everything is nice and smooth. It has a system in place. Everything has its position. And I think for the first kind of couple of years, I learned a lot. And then when my first franchisee came on board, when he came and did his training here and we did his training there, he found it a piece of cake, because all of those mistakes that I made and all of those difficulties that I went through, he didn't have to go through. And I think, it's more organization. How to operate your business on a daily basis and to prioritize. I think that's what I found most difficult. And I think that's what I got stuck on right at the early days.
And then also, being that you didn't come out of a background in F&B, I know you hit on this when we first started the conversation, but just out of curiosity, when you made this change, in spite of the fact that clearly you're very passionate about what you do, what was your biggest challenge? What was that thing that you can look back and say, wow, I did not expect this when I decided to make this change?
Yeah, I think it was the risk of having a comfortable position, being employed, having a salary, having a home, and thinking, right, I'm going to risk all of this, a monthly paycheck, and I'm going to do this. The concerns always were, is it going to work? Is it going to work? Is it going to work? And the amount of sleepless nights I had. But wow, looking back over 5 years, there's nothing, I would never go back to what I did before. And I say that to everyone, once you've really stepped into this model, it changes your life, honestly. You're going to see the freedom, you're going to be your own boss, you're going to be successful, you're going to see the results. And I think looking back now, I made the best decision of my life. But I still remember how I felt right in the early days of, sitting there and talking to my wife and saying, this is really scary. But I tell all franchisees that, I came from no experience, just a passion in food. And, I stepped into this industry, and I'm 5 years strong now. So that was probably the one of the biggest things. But like I said, looking back, I wouldn't change anything.
So, obviously passion plays a massive role here. And Matteo, I guess my question for you is, you've worked with a number of different businesses and people, some who have incredible amounts of experience in the space and some, again, who are just starting out for the first time. Is passion enough for someone who is trying to make a career change? Is passion enough for most, or are there other other things that potential franchisees in the F&B space need to be mindful of?
Yeah, I don't think passion is enough. It can help you overcome certain challenges that you're gonna face. Let's face it. First year is the hardest one. Returns can be very good if you do things properly, but your first year is gonna be you're gonna have setbacks. You almost have to factor them into your business plan. But you cannot just go with passion, and it's not enough. Certainly, well, you need to get help. If you're in a franchise system, obviously you have that help, and you should be entitled to support to help you out. So that's one good element of being in a franchise. I think it is really the I would say probably is the mental attitude not to be affected by a setback. So is to basically carry on regardless, and not make that setback influence how you think. It's all in the mind to a certain extent, but there are some there are some good elements of support that can help you during that difficult period. So I guess probably more on the tangible side, you can be in a strong position once you're trading if you've done certain steps before. So, for example, if you planned your finances correctly with your franchisor, so that you don't finish your cash and it's month 4, because maybe that's a slower part of the year where you open is the slowest month. You have to take into account that. So a bit of financial planning is very helpful, and that comes with the support of the franchise. But even before then, it's obviously investing time in making sure you do your due diligence on the site, because once you're stuck with the site, I mean, the management you can adjust. You can come back from setbacks on management and bad reviews. You're gonna get bad reviews. It's almost physiological. Mm. You can come back on those, but the site that's you cannot easily change your site. And my experience, I would say probably even middle of the road concepts in a great location do very well. Pre-COVID, if you look at tourist locations, sometimes it's not very very good concept, but because they are in that location. So that is the homework you need to do prior to operating. It's going to take a lot of headaches away. You're going to have setbacks anyway, but it's really the attitude of say I'm going to succeed that is going to keep you alive in business. And once you've gone through the first say 12 months, it is really you're gonna view success. It's gonna be achieved yet, but you can see success, and that's gonna drive you like mad, because you feel like you're already succeeding. So I think it's a bit of that, and I can certainly you can relate it to your experience, Imran. I've also become self-employed years ago. My wife recently become self-employed, and I can see similarities across the board. So, but until you have that experience, you feel like you're in a precarious situation. Once you have established your business, you'll never go back. I haven't met a single person that came back to being employed after being self-employed voluntarily or willingly. I've still to meet someone like that.
So I think. And I love that sentiment, because anyone who has been an entrepreneur of any sort knows that it really gives you that natural high. And I think, we've only got, I can't believe time has already flown. We only have a few minutes left, and we might have, if anyone on the call has any questions, feel free to throw that into the chat. But to make sure that we can cover off on this the final point, the reason why we're all here today is to talk about why now is the right time to become a franchisee. So I'd love for both of you to quickly chime in and share your thoughts on why that is the case, and why you would recommend potential franchisees really seizing the opportunity now in growing a business and a career for themselves that can really drive huge success down the road.
Yeah, go Imran. You first.
Yeah, it's, ask me. I'm witness to this. This is if there's no other time, this is the only time to invest really. I think we look at sales, not just with my business, but other quick service operations. They've increased. We had a 40% increase in the first kind of 2 months of this year versus last year. Phenomenal. And I think, what we're finding is consumers are changing the way they eat and the way they purchase, and that's more quick service, in terms of cost effectiveness, as opposed to, the big Italian brands that you'd go out and get a takeaway from. Even if you look at places like Pizza Express and that now, people aren't essentially ordering that as a delivery because it's more of the experience. Whereas us, what you're getting great family meals. The taste is there, the quality is there, and you're getting it to your doorstep, for half the price. And I think consumers and customers have really changed their mindset when it comes to eating out, whereas they're eating in, but they're getting the same quality as they would when they're eating out, and you're getting that with Rooster Shack.
Yeah, so what I would say in regard to your question, Shane, just to recap, is really, the opportunities that are there, to seize on certain trends, with some quality brands at the moment. Trends being, the opportunities on the high street, and the opportunities with, sort of availability of skilled staff. I think it is that shift where new brands have an edge right now because they were born in the new normal, if you like, or they have a business model that's perfectly aligned with the new normal, whereas the older, more established businesses have to catch up effectively. And so the Pizza Expresses, they are the ones that are now coming to delivery, but Imran has always been there, and these businesses are born just to be on delivery or to be on a neighborhood type of location. So good opportunities are there, but let's face it, it would still require some level of investment. It will require a certain level of effort as well. So it's a very serious commitment. But as I said, hard work usually pays, and you need to satisfy yourself that whatever brand and franchisor you're partnering with, do your own due diligence. Don't just look at what they tell, they send you as projections. Look at the actuals of the business. Make sure you make your due diligence. If you do that, and the brand, you choose the right brand, then it's all down to location and execution. So definitely good time, but there's a method about joining a franchise. It shouldn't be done in a light way. So we can certainly say that.
Well, thank you so much for that. We are pretty much getting to the end here. I know there were a couple questions that came through around startup costs for Rooster Shack, and our Point Franchise moderator has sent a link to information for Rooster Shack around costs and other details that all of you can check out. There was also a question about, what are the advantages and disadvantages of franchising? The good news is that the entire editorial team at Point Franchise puts out a tremendous amount of content every single day on the ins and outs of the franchising industry as a whole. So please be sure to take a look at pointfranchise.co.uk to get some really useful and actionable information to help you on your franchising journey. But because we don't really have that much time left, and we know everyone's time is incredibly valuable, I want to just use this opportunity to say thank you both, Imran and Matteo, for your participation and your thoughts and the very engaging dialogue around your businesses and the food and beverage industry. And I want to thank everyone for joining today, for being a part of this launch inaugural webinar as part of the Franchise Forward series that we'll be doing a lot more of soon. So thank you so much, everyone. And I hope everyone has a great weekend, and happy Friday to you all.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Take care, everyone.